I think we all like to think that as a species, the human being is far, far more intelligent than the rest of the animal kingdom. And whilst to some extent that is true, we are also pretty primitive as well. What we do have is the luxury of 3 brains. We just haven't quite figured out how to use them properly. Let me explain what I mean. Right at the back of your head, you have the most primitive, most basic part of your brain. That is often thought of as your survival brain. It is the part of you that goes and gets food when you're hungry. It's the part of you that wants to run away if you're facing something big and scary. That part of your brain is entirely focused on keeping you alive. Above that part of your brain is the second part of your brain. That part is focused on your social and emotional world. We were born into relationships, as I've already said. Those relationships have enabled us to survive. And so it's really important for us as human beings that we're able to fit in with the rest of the group in order to have our needs met. So that second part of our brain is focused on keeping us connected to other people. Finally, the part of the brain that we have that's quite unique to our animal friends is this front part here. That is the part of the brain that does the higher thinking. It is the part that does all the logic, all the knowledge. It's the part that kind of really grapples with things. It's the part you're using now as you're listening to me talking and trying to learn more. The problem is that when something happens that threatens us, either literally in terms of our physical safety or socially in terms of our ability to be in relationship, that part of our brain shuts down almost entirely. We become reliant on the 2 parts of our brain. And that is not very helpful. That is why we can end up doing things that seem really irrational. They are irrational because we're literally not thinking. So that's where we end up with those 2 core beliefs around safety and around shame. The safety part of our thinking comes from this back bit here, focused on keeping us alive. The shame part comes from the middle part of our brain, which is focused on our social and emotional connection to other people. Put simply, we need to feel that we are good enough, and we need to feel that we are safe enough. Now, if we go back to what we learnt yesterday about relationships, you'll remember that I said the important thing was that there was 2 people within a relationship. Well, that is even more crucial to understand when we think about our belief systems. Because here's the thing, fear triggers fear, and shame triggers shame. So when your child is acting out of their fear state, when they are scared for their survival in whatever way that forms, they are going to trigger your own fear state. They're going to trigger your sense of safety. And what I see a lot of times with parents, and have certainly done it myself, is that the child is this scared. I meet it with a fear that's here. They then build it, and so things escalate until no one is feeling safe at all. In a similar way, shame triggers shame. When you work and live alongside a child who has a shame base, when they simply feel not good enough, they can so easily trigger the shame that is within us. And also, as most of us do have our own sense of shame, our shame can trigger them. So it's really important that when we think about a child's sense of fear and a child's sense about whether or not they're lovable, we consider that in the context of a relationship with you as the parent. That, of course, then offers a little bit of hope, because if we can control our own sense of safety and we can control our own sense around being good enough, then that also can then trigger the child's sense of safety and the child's sense of being good enough.